Have you ever prayed with all your heart, pouring out your deepest desires only to feel like your words hit an invisible ceiling and bounced right back? You're not alone. Millions of people around the world repeat the same prayers day after day, year after year, wondering why the heavens seem silent. But what if I told you that the problem isn't with God's willingness to answer? It's with the way we've been taught to ask. When Jesus spoke those powerful words, "Ask and you shall receive," He wasn't giving us a cosmic vending machine formula where we insert prayers and expect miracles to drop out. For centuries, this profound teaching has been tragically misunderstood, turning desperate seekers into spiritual beggars, waiting for a distant deity to finally notice their pleas. Now here's the truth that might shake everything you thought you knew about prayer. The secret doesn't lie in asking harder, louder, or more frequently. The transformation happens when you understand what you're truly asking for, and more importantly, who is doing the asking. Has this ever happened to you? You've prayed fervently for something, maybe healing, financial breakthrough, or the perfect relationship, yet nothing changed. Meanwhile, you watched others receive seemingly effortless blessings, and you wondered what they knew that you didn't. The answer is simpler than you think, yet more profound than most religious teachings dare to explore. When we ask from a consciousness of lack, fear, and separation, believing we're small, powerless beings trying to convince a reluctant God to help us, we're actually reinforcing the very condition we're trying to escape. Every desperate prayer becomes an affirmation of our poverty, our sickness, our unworthiness. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover will completely revolutionize not just how you pray, but how you experience reality itself. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. True asking, the kind that Jesus actually taught, isn't petition at all. It's recognition. It's not about begging for something you don't have. It's about opening your awareness to receive what has always been present in divine consciousness, just waiting for you to tune into the right frequency. Think about it. A radio doesn't create the music. It simply becomes receptive to what's already broadcasting. Your consciousness works the same way. This distinction between begging and recognizing changes absolutely everything about why some prayers seem to work while others fall flat. When you grasp this principle at its core, your entire relationship with the divine transforms from struggle to grace, from effort to effortless receiving, from feeling like an abandoned orphan to knowing yourself as an heir to infinite abundance. And the implications reach far beyond just getting your prayers answered. Smith Wigglesworth understood something that most spiritual seekers spend their entire lives missing. The kingdom of God isn't a distant paradise you reach after death or a far-off realm accessible only through intense religious effort. It's within you right now, in this very moment. Every resource, every answer, every miracle you've been searching for externally already exists in the depths of your own consciousness. This is the hidden truth that transforms everything. You're not lacking anything. You've simply been looking in the wrong direction. Think about the impact of this revelation. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," He was pointing to an internal universe of infinite possibility, not giving you another religious concept to believe in. The asking He spoke of isn't about convincing some external force to give you what you need. It's an inner turning, a fundamental shift in awareness from seeing yourself as limited, broken, and needy to recognizing the spiritual wholeness that's been your true nature all along. This isn't just positive thinking or wishful imagination. It's a complete reorientation of your consciousness that changes how reality responds to you. But here's where most people get stuck, and this is crucial to understand. We approach prayer and spiritual practice from the level of the problem itself. We focus intensely on what's wrong, what's missing, what hurts, what we lack. We meditate on our sickness, rehearse our financial struggles, replay our relationship failures, and in doing so, we keep our consciousness locked in the exact frequency that created the problem in the first place. It's like trying to find your way out of a dark room by staring at the darkness and describing how dark it is. The journey out begins when you look for the light switch. Wigglesworth demonstrated through countless real-life transformations that effective spiritual work doesn't happen at the problem level. It begins when you rise above the problem into the consciousness where the solution already exists. This isn't about denying reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about refusing to let the problem define your identity and dictate your awareness. When you operate from solution consciousness rather than problem consciousness, something miraculous happens. Receiving becomes effortless. The things you struggled and strained for begin flowing naturally because you've aligned yourself with the frequency where they already exist. Now, I want to go even deeper into this, because understanding the mechanics of consciousness is what separates those who experience occasional breakthroughs from those who live in continuous flow. Most people spend their lives trapped in what I call the problem prayer cycle. They identify a problem, pray desperately about it while focusing on how bad it is, feel temporary relief from praying, then return to worrying about the problem, which leads them back to desperate prayer. Round and round they go, never realizing that the cycle itself is the barrier. The mindset you bring to prayer determines everything about what you can receive. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to shift," if this resonates with you. Hit that subscribe button, because we dive into these spiritual truths regularly, and I want you on this journey with me. Through decades of spiritual practice and real transformation in people's lives, Wigglesworth discovered something counterintuitive that changes the entire game. Asking isn't about talking at all. It's about listening. When you ask correctly, you're not sending requests outward into some cosmic mailbox, hoping someone eventually reads your letter. You're becoming still enough, quiet enough, receptive enough to hear the answer that divine intelligence has already been speaking. This is the revelation that separates those who pray and wait from those who ask and receive immediately. Here's the hidden truth behind this principle. In spiritual reality, the answer precedes the question. Before you even recognized you had a need, the solution was already present in consciousness. Think of it like tuning a radio. The music isn't created when you turn the dial. It's already broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. Classical, music, rock, jazz, news, all of it exists in the air around you right now. Your radio doesn't manufacture the sound. It simply becomes receptive to what's already there. Your consciousness works exactly the same way. Every answer, every breakthrough, every miracle exists right now in the field of infinite intelligence. The question isn't whether it's available. The question is whether you're tuned to the right frequency to receive it. This is why Wigglesworth emphasized contemplative meditation over the kind of petitionary prayer most people practice. There's a massive difference between these two approaches, and understanding this difference will save you years of frustration. Petitionary prayer is when you come to God with your list of demands, explaining your problems, describing what you need, essentially trying to convince the divine to act on your behalf. It's transactional. It's based on the assumption that you know what you need and God needs to be persuaded to provide it. But contemplative meditation is something entirely different. It's the decision to become silent, to let your human mind with all its anxious thoughts and desperate strategies become quiet, so that divine reality can impress itself upon your awareness. In that silence, something profound happens. You stop operating from mental effort and shift into spiritual receptivity. Your consciousness becomes the receiving station for infinite intelligence, not through force, not through repetition, not through intensity of emotion, but through simple openness. This is where the real transformation occurs, in the space between your thoughts, in the stillness beneath your worry. Most people never experience this because they can't stop talking long enough to listen. They pray at God instead of communing with God. They broadcast their needs without ever switching to receive mode. The impact of this shift cannot be overstated. When you move from petition to reception, from talking to listening, from demanding to allowing, you position yourself in the flow of continuous divine provision. Solutions appear that your limited mind could never have conceived. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. Resources come through channels you never anticipated. And it all happens not because you prayed harder, but because you finally got quiet enough to hear what was always being said. Put down in the comments, "I choose to listen," if you're ready to experience this shift. But here's where we need to confront the real barrier that keeps most prayers powerless, and this might be uncomfortable to hear. The reason asking fails for so many people isn't because they're using the wrong words or praying at the wrong time or lacking enough faith. It's because they're asking from the separated self. This is the ego consciousness that fundamentally believes it's cut off from God, isolated, alone, and must somehow convince a distant deity to notice its plight and intervene. Wigglesworth taught that this consciousness cannot receive no matter how sincere or desperate the prayer, because it's founded entirely on a lie, the lie of separation. Think about the impact this has on everything you ask for. When you approach prayer believing you're a small, powerless being disconnected from the source of all supply, every request reinforces that false identity. You're essentially affirming your separation with every word. True asking operates from an entirely different foundation. It recognizes your oneness with infinite source, not as a religious concept to believe in, but as the actual reality of your existence. You're not separate from the supply you seek. You're not standing outside the kingdom, begging to get in. You're already in. You've always been in. The abundance, the healing, the wisdom, the love you're searching for aren't locked away in some heavenly vault waiting for you to earn them. They're the very substance of the consciousness you exist within right now. This is where Jesus' words take on revolutionary meaning. When he said the Father knows what you need before you ask, he wasn't describing a benevolent dictator who monitors your needs and decides whether to grant them. He was revealing that divine intelligence is already providing, already answering, already supplying everything necessary for your wholeness in this very moment. The provision precedes your awareness of the need. This completely transforms what asking means. When you ask from this consciousness of oneness, you're not requesting something to be created for you. You're accepting what already exists. You're not trying to make something happen. You're recognizing what is happening. This distinction is everything. It's the difference between struggle and grace, between effort and ease, between years of unanswered prayers and immediate transformation. Most people approach prayer like they're trying to fill an empty cup from a distant well, hoping someone will carry water to them. But the truth is, you're already immersed in the ocean. The consciousness of lack is the only thing preventing you from recognizing the infinite supply you're swimming in. Every moment you spend in separation consciousness, you're essentially closing your eyes and claiming you can't see, plugging your ears and claiming you can't hear. The light is shining. The voice is speaking. The provision is flowing. Your only task is to open yourself to what's already present. And this is where the real journey begins, because recognizing oneness intellectually is one thing, but living from that awareness moment by moment is where transformation becomes your daily experience. Write in the comments, "I am one with Source," if this truth is landing in your spirit right now. Let me share something that brings all of this from theory into tangible reality. Because understanding principles is one thing, but seeing them work in actual lives is what builds unshakable conviction. Helen had been praying for financial breakthrough for 3 solid years. She attended every prayer meeting, spoke positive affirmations daily, believed she was doing everything right, yet her bank account remained empty. Opportunities seemed to evaporate before her eyes, and the weight of financial pressure grew heavier with each passing month. She was exhausted from asking and ready to abandon spiritual principles altogether. When Helen encountered these teachings, something clicked that transformed her entire approach. She suddenly saw what she'd been doing wrong all along. Every prayer had been an affirmation of lack. Every desperate plea reinforced the consciousness of poverty. She was asking from the problem, essentially telling the universe over and over, "I don't have, I need, I'm broke, please fix this." And the universe, which responds to consciousness, kept reflecting that exact reality back to her. The hidden truth Wigglesworth revealed was radical. Stop asking for money. Instead, start recognizing the infinite substance that is the true nature of reality itself. For 2 months, Helen practiced a completely different approach. She stopped obsessively checking her bank balance. She stopped panicking about bills. Each morning, she simply rested in the awareness that infinite intelligence was already providing everything necessary for her well-being. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it was undeniable. Within 3 months, an unexpected job offer arrived with triple her previous salary. A forgotten investment matured with surprising returns. Opportunities that had always been there suddenly became visible because her consciousness had shifted from lack to abundance. She learned through direct experience that asking isn't begging. It's opening to receive what's already flowing toward you when you're aligned with the right frequency. Then there's Marcus, whose journey reveals another dimension of this truth. He'd suffered from chronic pain for 7 brutal years. Desperate for relief, he prayed constantly, visited countless healers, tried every spiritual technique he could find. Each time the pain returned, his faith eroded a little more. He began believing either God didn't care or that he was somehow unworthy of healing. But Wigglesworth's principle changed everything about Marcus's approach. The revelation hit him like lightning. He'd been asking God to fix a material body, which kept his consciousness locked in the belief that something was fundamentally wrong with him. If something shifted in your awareness today, hit that like button. It helps this message reach others searching for the same truth. Marcus made a radical decision. He stopped praying for his pain to disappear. Instead, he spent time each day recognizing the spiritual body that knows no disease, no limitation, no deterioration. He didn't deny the pain when it appeared, but he refused to give it power through constant attention and fear. Over 6 months, the episodes decreased in both frequency and intensity. More importantly, his fear dissolved. A year later, the chronic condition had completely resolved. The healing came not from convincing God to intervene, but from recognizing the spiritual perfection that had always been his true nature. Put in the comments, consciousness creates reality, if these stories are revealing something new to you. Now, I want to show you the practical technique Wigglesworth taught that prevents asking from becoming, that anxious repetition so many people fall into. He called it resting in the Word, and it's a game changer for anyone who finds themselves obsessively praying about the same thing over and over. Here's how it works. When you have a question or need, instead of bombarding the heavens with constant requests, you make a different decision. You select a spiritual truth that addresses the consciousness behind the problem, not the problem itself. Then you rest in that truth. You don't repeat it mechanically like some magic incantation. You sit with it. You let it unfold in your awareness like a flower opening. You feel its truth resonating in your consciousness until it becomes more real to you than the circumstances you're facing. For example, if financial lack is your challenge, you don't keep asking for money. Instead, you might rest in the truth that infinite substance is the nature of reality, and you are the expression of that abundance. You marinate in this awareness. You let it sink deeper than intellectual understanding into the foundation of how you perceive yourself in the world. This practice prevents the kind of desperate, repetitive asking that actually reinforces the problem. It transforms your consciousness from problem-focused to truth-focused, and that's where the real shift happens. The external circumstances reorganize themselves to match your transformed inner state, not because you forced change, but because consciousness creates experience. But Wigglesworth took this even deeper with a practice that seems counterintuitive at first, yet produces remarkable results. He taught what he called impersonal prayer, and understanding this principle can elevate your entire spiritual practice to a completely different level. Most asking is intensely personal, obsessively focused on me and my problems, my needs, my desires, my situation. This personal focus, while understandable, actually limits what you can receive because it keeps consciousness small and self-centered. Impersonal prayer expands your awareness beyond personal concerns into universal truth. Here's the revelation behind this approach. In impersonal prayer, you recognize spiritual principles that are true for everyone everywhere, not just for you. You don't ask for your healing. You recognize that healing is the nature of divine reality for all beings. You don't beg for your supply. You acknowledge that infinite abundance is the truth of existence itself, flowing to all who open themselves to receive it. This seems strange, doesn't it? How can praying for everyone help you specifically? But here's the hidden mechanism at work. When you pray impersonally, you rise into universal consciousness where all good is already established as permanent reality. From that elevated awareness, your personal experience automatically begins reflecting the universal truth you've recognized. You've lifted yourself out of the limited, fearful personal consciousness into the vast, field of infinite possibility. And from that vantage point, your individual needs are met naturally, without the struggle of focused, personal asking. Write in the comments, "I expand beyond myself," if this principle is opening new doors in your understanding. There's another crucial practice Wigglesworth emphasized that most people completely overlook, and it's the reason many prayers seem to go unanswered even when everything else is in place. When you ask for something, your human mind immediately goes to work creating detailed pictures of exactly how the answer should look, when it should arrive, what form it should take, and through which channels it must come. These mental pictures feel like faith, like clarity, like you're helping the process along. But in reality, they become invisible barriers that prevent you from receiving what divine intelligence is actually providing, which is often far beyond anything your limited perspective could imagine. True asking includes releasing your attachment to specific outcomes. This doesn't mean you have no preferences or desires. It means you hold them lightly, with an open hand rather than a clenched fist. You present your need or question clearly, then step back and remain receptive to how the answer appears. The universe has infinite pathways to provide what you need, but if you're demanding one specific route, you close yourself to all other possibilities. Wigglesworth often said that divine supply comes in forms we don't expect through channels we didn't anticipate. Your mental pictures limit the infinite to your finite imagination, and that's a costly mistake. Think about the impact this has on your daily experience. Every time you insist the answer must look exactly like what you've envisioned, you're essentially telling infinite intelligence, "I know better than you how this should unfold." It's like standing at a crossroads with a map, refusing to move until the GPS shows you the exact route you've already decided on, completely missing the better path that's right in front of you. The journey of true receiving requires flexibility, trust, and a willingness to be surprised by how provision arrives. This brings us to what Wigglesworth called living by grace. And this is where everything we've discussed converges into a practical way of being that transforms your entire existence. Living by grace means making a fundamental shift from asking God to do things to recognizing that God is already being all, doing all, and providing all in this very moment. You stop trying to get the divine to act and start acknowledging the divine action that never ceases. It's the difference between exhausting effort and receptive allowing, between forcing outcomes and cooperating with what's already unfolding. When you live by grace, you move through your day with an awareness that infinite intelligence is governing every situation. You don't have to make everything happen through sheer human willpower and anxious planning. You do your part with wisdom and diligence, absolutely, but you trust there's a divine component working through and beyond your efforts to produce results you could never achieve alone. This subtle shift in mindset transforms struggle into flow, anxiety into peace, isolation into partnership with something far greater than yourself. Write in the comments, "I release and trust," if you're ready to let go of control and open to grace. Now, I need to address something that trips up almost everyone who starts this journey. And if I don't tell you this now, you might abandon the practice right before the breakthrough happens. Consciousness transformation takes time. You're not just experimenting with a new technique or trying out the latest spiritual hack. You're undoing years, sometimes decades of conditioned thinking, deeply embedded fear patterns, and the fundamental belief in separation that's been programmed into you since childhood. This is serious inner work, and expecting it to rewire overnight is like planting a seed and getting frustrated when you don't see a tree the next morning. The key to lasting transformation is consistency, without anxiety about timing. Practice your contemplative meditation daily, not because you're desperately waiting for results to validate the process, but because you're cultivating spiritual awareness as a way of life. Some people experience rapid shifts. Others need months of patient practice before visible changes occur. Neither timeline reflects your worthiness or the validity of the principle. What matters is that you're moving forward, that you're establishing a new foundation of awareness that becomes stronger with each day of practice. The temptation to quit comes strongest just before the consciousness shift manifests in your external reality. Trust the process, even when physical evidence lags behind your inner work. But here's where everything we've discussed leads, and this is the ultimate revelation that changes not just how you pray but who you understand yourself to be. The transformation you're seeking isn't about getting something external. It's about discovering that you yourself are the answer to your asking. Not your human personality with all its limitations and fears, not your ego with its endless needs and demands, but the divine consciousness that is your true nature, the eternal reality beneath all the temporary identities you've worn. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you," this wasn't poetic language or religious metaphor. He meant that everything you've been searching for outside yourself, love, abundance, peace, wholeness, power, wisdom, is actually the nature of your own being when recognized spiritually. This is the hidden truth that mystics throughout history have tried to communicate. You're not a separate fragment begging for connection to the source. You are the source expressing itself in unique form. From this awareness, everything transforms. Asking becomes recognition. Receiving becomes as natural as breathing. Miracles become the normal experience of consciousness aligned with its true nature. This is the journey from believing you're a beggar at the gates to realizing you're the heir who's always been inside the kingdom. The shift happens not through more effort, but through releasing the false identity that made you feel separate in the first place. And once you taste this truth, even for a moment, you can never fully return to the old way of seeing yourself. Put in the comments, "I am the answer," if this revelation is landing deep in your spirit. If you're still here with me right now, I want you to know something. You're not here by accident. The fact that you've stayed through this entire journey tells me you're genuinely seeking transformation, not just consuming content. That matters. And if what we've explored today resonated with you, if something shifted in how you understand prayer, consciousness, and your own divine nature, then I'd love to have you continue this journey with me. Hit that subscribe button because we dive deep into these spiritual principles regularly, and I promise you, every video is crafted to give you practical wisdom you can actually use, not just theories to think about. This is about transformation, not information. And speaking of transformation, drop a comment right now saying, "This message was meant for me, so I know you made it all the way through." I read every single comment, and there's something powerful about declaring your readiness for this shift. And if this video opened something new in your awareness, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who are searching for the same truth you just discovered. There are so many people still trapped in the old way of asking, still struggling with unanswered prayers, and you could be the reason this reaches them. Now there's a video right here that takes what we just covered and shows you exactly how to apply it in specific life situations, relationships, finances, health. It's the perfect next step. Click and continue with me over there, because your transformation is just beginning, and I want to walk this path with you.